I'm Matt Wilden, work at Amazon. I've been in the HR shared services for the last 3 years. My focus has been on the employee experience. One thing that we learned very on, and the pitch that my boss gave me in trying to get me to take this role in the first place was, look, we want to treat HR services like a commercial enterprise, help us find ways to measure the customer experience like Amazon does. So it's been fun to go say, what is the business doing well, and how can we leverage that, change it, adjust it to meet our own needs in measuring what the employee experience is each day. I did not come up with the buzzword frustration-free. It's a very Amazonian principle, but we wanted to apply that to our experience because that's a pretty high bar for having a good experience at Amazon, we discovered, which is our frustration-free packaging initiative. Very briefly, the idea is instead of having 50 twist ties and zip ties and lots of tape and cardboard, you can open a package in literally seconds, right? You just tear it open and there's your product. And we love that concept of just a frustration-free HR experience, and so we wanted to find a way to incorporate that into all of our measures. Whenever we ask somebody about their experience, we key off of that frustration-free because it's a very high bar. Yeah, we did do a lot of measurement to land there. I think the first thing we did, we didn't know that frustration-free would be the right metric, quite frankly. And so we started, I actually assumed it wouldn't. And so we decided to test, I think, 8 or 10 different measures out there, a lot of the popular industry ones, NPS and various 5-point Likert scale type questions. We cross-seeded them among a bunch of other surveys and tested them for a couple months, and then went to find out which ones, I won't get into the statistics of it, but which ones were particularly reliable or valid and really measured that experience in the most effective way. And we were pleasantly surprised to learn that frustration-free was actually our best. It was a really good measure, and we think because it just resonates with Amazonians. They feel like that's part of their DNA at the company, and so when we ask them, did you have a frustration-free transfer or onboarding experience or leave of absence? They're like, I know what you mean by that. Chasing negative outliers is an interesting thing. It sort of flips the idea of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule on its head, which is, of course, go hit the low-hanging fruit, solve for that majority of your population, but go seek out the most extreme, most difficult circumstances that are really not giving your customers satisfaction and solve for those. And so we've tried to find measures that help us get at those pieces of the experience. For example, we'll go look at top percentile measures, which is like those really folks at the far end of the distribution who are having the very worst experiences, who maybe they don't hear back from us for 3 weeks, right? And go try to figure out what's causing those issues to happen. There's a lot of principles in human-centered design and design thinking that relate to go to the extremes and solve for those first, and you'll often end up raising the boats for everybody. I mean, a couple of things on averages. First is that, first of all, measure things. I think that's one of the mistakes we make particularly in HR shared services at a lot of companies, which is we sometimes guess at the experience. We kind of design it for ourselves, which is a natural human reaction, right? You kind of think, well, if we did it this way, I would like it. And so we all kind of stand around and argue about whether that's the right way to measure things. And one of the principles in Amazon that I loved applying to our world is Jeff Bezos is wont to say, what's the point in standing in a meeting arguing about how tall the ceiling is? Stop arguing and just get a measuring tape, right? And so first, get in place the measures. Start with that as your baseline and then build from that. But we quickly discovered that averages, particularly kind of 5-point Likert scale, your traditional survey questions, we say averages are lazy because they don't really tell you what you need to know. First of all, they tend not to move a great deal, and so if you've got a 3.5 on a scale, how do you know what the customer is really experiencing? And we want to get at that experience, not the measure. And so we try to find ways to bifurcate that into measuring like the really top group, the very bottom group, the really extreme groups, and to find ways to get into those cases that are not going to be surfaced naturally by just looking at a static kind of traditional dashboard, essentially. In terms of visualizing metrics, I think we're still learning as we go. I'd like to say we're further along than we are, but I think, and by the way, parenthetically, I think we get a lot more credit than we deserve being Amazon because our customer experience is so world-class. Everybody expects that we're that good internally, and it's like, we got a long way to go, so don't give us more credit than we deserve. Yeah, we've been toying with different ways of taking like, a positive response rate, negative response rate, which is you take those 5 response options and you divide your population to those who are on the really high end and the really low end, and then everybody in the middle you kind of don't necessarily score. If you triangulate those and start to watch, you can see how an experience trends over time, how that relationship shifts, because If you've got a service that 90% of your people are satisfied, but the other 10% are extremely dissatisfied, that's a different problem than if you've got one that's maybe 70% satisfied, but it's only, say, 2% dissatisfied. Very different service problems. And so by getting a little more granular around it, trying to find ways to visualize that and watching the trends over time, it helps us know the health of the service and where we ought to go focus our time. Regarding those visualizations, some of the things we'll do is to share it. We don't necessarily reflect it back to employees, because in many cases this is about a service, a very specific detail of a service that probably your average employee is not going to want to get into the detail, but we reflect that back like a mirror to the owners of the services and engage in a dialogue with them. They're like, here's what we're hearing about your service. This is the health of the service from the employee point of view, and they track it from other more objective measures like turnaround times and hold times, those sort of things. But as we bring those combined views, I think it gives a more holistic look into what their customers, their employees are experiencing every day. And so I like that more balanced point of view. I think we're still learning how to take really strong action on that. We partner with these service owners, and to their credit, they're great owners, right? They want to improve the experience. But now we're getting into those finer details, the tougher and tougher details, the far distribution of the experience. That's a hard place to solve. And so we're finding new ways and still experimenting, quite frankly, with how we can say on a monthly or a quarterly basis do a really deep dive review with them on what's working and what's not. One example, for example, we get tens of thousands of responses to our surveys every month for all of our transactions, all of our services. And so implicit in those are again, many thousand unstructured comments, so audio recordings, written comments that people might type into a survey form. And we quickly got so many of those we could no longer scale manually to deal with them. And so we're increasingly relying upon text analytics, natural language processing, NLP tools to help derive those insights and then to share them back out. Still on the front end of getting good at that, but we're learning how to find themes and insights there that we can often cut by kind of demographics and say, hey, here's an insight that if we went to solve this, it would pick up, this piece of the positive experience for you. And it's that two-way dialogue has been a good experience for us all. One of the trends I think I like the most in HR services specifically, shared services in general, is the consumerization of the experience. Like, I love us applying that lens to this experience. It resonates with me as an Amazonian, right? It resonates with treating customers as friends, which is a principle we try to follow. And so, if you create an experience that's just like they would get on an Amazon app or shopping, or the way they use really high-end tools on a day-to-day basis, or their Apple product, if you can get an employee to have that high end of an experience, the services of an employment life cycle cease being just something you have to do to get done, but they can actually become a motivator and part of pride for your company. You can say, like, hey, look, this is what I experience on a day-to-day basis at this company, and we want people to feel a sense of pride for the quality of the standards we hold, the experience they have on a day-to-day basis, how smooth and frustration-free things are each day. If we can nail that, we think that removes a lot of underlying frustration and allows people to get excited about other aspects of the company as well as this stuff. Yeah, there are a lot of technologies enabling the consumerization process. I think fundamentally what we have to get is to mobile experiences. Now, that doesn't apply to all work groups. Folks in our operational sites, our fulfillment centers, they don't always have access to those kind of smart devices, but that's getting more and more common. And as it does, and for our corporate teams, you absolutely want to put it into an app experience, give them immediate access so they can self-serve. It's the grocery store checkout. I prefer to do that whenever possible because I just get it done. It's got to be well designed, but if it is, then that allows me to move through the experience quickly. So automating things, giving self-service access, having things that are transactional get done very quickly. And then when I have a more high-touch thing, then let me interact with a human in a really engaged, empathetic way. One of the things I do like about the increasing use of tools and technology is allows us not to spend our time on being so transactionally oriented and doing back office work that takes so much human time and energy that we can't move quickly. And so it allows us to be a lot more agile, to move more quickly, to go solve those challenges quickly that solve our employee pain points. And if we can do those in a hurry, if we can have the agility that we need to execute on behalf of our customers, our employees more quickly, that allows us to put to bed the stuff that has historically plagued shared services environments. Like just get the work done as quickly and efficiently and as friendly as possible, and then we can solve the bigger gnarlier challenges that will really make a difference for the employees. Yeah, I get a lot of benefits out of coming to these type of conferences. This is my second shared services outsourcing week, and I've come to several IQPC conferences. I'm a big fan. What I've found is it becomes a ritual of renewal for me, basically. I come in, I get new ideas, I leave with a bag full of insights, people to connect with. I love to find people through the app and have conversations here and then afterward. It leaves me with ideas. I kind of get renewed, I get refreshed on what's going on out there in the industry. It challenges me to think about things in ways I haven't done before. I've loved coming. They're great experiences.